Gilbey. I'm the director of A Lonely Place to Die, a film about a group of mountaineers in the Scottish Highlands who discover a kidnapped girl buried in a box under the ground, and being good people like you and I, their idea is to get this child down and off the mountains to safety, and all hell is going to break loose in the process. Really want to do a survival thriller. I love the Highlands of Scotland. I used to study in Scotland. I've always wanted to film in the Highlands. I just wanted to do a what if movie. You know, we do those questions, what would you do if blah, 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 and we were like, what would you do if you heard a noise and there was a sound emanating out of a breathing tube, and you don't know what's down there because the sound is muffled and distorted, it could be anything, but you're going to investigate. You know, what if it's a child? What if it's a rabid, crazy, I don't know what. So I just wanted to make a what-if movie, and we just wanted to make an action-adventure thriller that kept people guessing. The other thing is, we wanted to have a few jumps and a few surprises that, you know, a lot of people seem to not bother putting into a lot of movies these days. So, you know, we wanted to just have a lot of jumps and a lot of twists and a lot of turns, but make a sort of an old-school action-adventure thriller was really the aim. You can't ever make a film in the wilds without at least some comparison to Deliverance. Deliverance is a classic film, but I think our influence, I'm sure there's a little bit of that there, and why not? But I think also the other one was Southern Comfort. I don't know what this film is called in France, but it's the film by Walter Hill. Southern Comfort, definitely the structure of that film was a similar kind of thing where a group of territorial army guys fire some blanks at a bunch of locals and all hell breaks loose. It's a catalyst film. So yeah, there's probably a little bit of Deliverance in there, and the sort of you know, again, like us losing one of our very strong characters early on is a bit like Burt Reynolds ultimately getting his leg crippled and crushed, and one of the quieter characters coming to the front, you know, a bit like Alien, really, you know, because Sigourney Weaver is not the leader of that ship. You know, you think it's going to be Tom Skerritt, but anyway. No, I think there are so few films shot in the mountains that whenever you do shoot a film in the mountains, people go, oh, it's obviously like Cliffhanger then.
It's a very good film for me.
Yeah, but once you start learning about climbing and mountaineering, you realize how ridiculous a lot of the stuff in Cliffhanger actually is. Like, for example, the opening sequence of Cliffhanger, this metal buckle cannot break. It can't break. It can't break. You could hang 2 elephants off that metal buckle. It won't break. He has a gun, a bolt gun. It doesn't exist. You cannot do this. It would set off any avalanche anywhere in the Alps or anywhere. It's a fun action movie. I think, you know, I file Cliffhanger under a sort of semi-guilty pleasure. I do enjoy it, but no, it's definitely not. And what our real sort of influence was, actually a lot of it was like Touching the Void and Joe Simpson's writing. Wanting to create very realistic mountaineering sequences, as realistic as we could do for a fictional adventure film. You know, we'd have to take small artistic license, but to keep it, we wanted to make very realistic climbing scenes, which I think have very rarely been done in movies. Actually, probably the best climbing photography, you've got to go back to the 70s and watch the Eiger Sanction, and seeing Clint Eastwood, you know, on the side of the north face of the Eiger to get half decent climbing sequences. You have to go back a long way to get that realism, you know. Rambo, no. Rambo, definitely not. No. First Blood. First Blood. There's one death in the film, I won't ruin it with the character, where the child is holding her arm and she falls off frame. And this was like from Conan the Barbarian, where the mother is beheaded at the start and she just falls away from the baby Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that was an influence. I didn't want to make a film as dark as Eden Lake. I would file Eden Lake under as a hoodie horror film. And Eden Lake is an incredibly clever film because it's probably got the most terrifying villains of all time because they're teenagers that don't give a fuck. And you read about them all the time. They're the scariest things of all because they're so flipping believable. You know, I mean, really, really disgustingly brought up, dangerous young people. That is so fucking realistic. Our film was, we definitely wanted to keep it more on the adventure thriller side. We wanted to keep a 15 certificate, Eden Lake is an 18. And we didn't want to make something that was quite so brutally horror film style as Eden Lake. So no, I would file that not as an influence, no. But I like Eden Lake, it's a good film. Oh yeah, very difficult. Firstly, the mountain that we filmed on is called Buccal Etiv Mor, which is ancient Gallic, meaning the great herdsman of Etiv, they think. No one can actually translate it because it's a dead language. But it was a very, very dangerous mountain. It had killed 2 people in an avalanche 3 months before we'd filmed. It had killed 3 people in an avalanche the year before. And although we weren't filming in avalanche conditions, we were still filming on, you know, I think the mountain is Scotland's second biggest killer. It's a very dangerous environment. And I think a lesson that we learned, the toughness was that on one of the days we went up with the actors, we had too many crew up there. And one of the crew members dislodged a rock the size of like a small television. And this thing smashed down and fell down and almost hit a young girl on the crew. And it missed her by this much. And had it hit her, if it had hit her on the head, she'd have been dead. If it hit her anything else, she'd have broken God knows what. It was very, very scary. It was like a bomb going off in Piccadilly. It was just this, you saw the fear just spread. And we learned very quickly, don't put anyone on that mountain who isn't absolutely essential. You know, extra makeup girl, no, gone. You know, continuity, forget it. You know, you need to take the bare minimum out there because when you're on a film set, you know, there's that word, film set. This is not a set. This is a dangerous mountain, and you forget, you know, and you mustn't forget for a split second that this is about the most dangerous environment on land that you can film in. You know, so it keeps you on your toes. You know, definitely. But apart from that, you know, it's incredible what you get used to. I started to get used to just abseiling in every day to filming locations and stuff on the river. But it's a challenge. It's fun most of the time. Most of the time, not all of the time. No, not at all, no. What we wanted to do was, we wanted to have a group of kidnappers take a child, and we know from the film that they've taken other children of different nationalities. They talk about a Japanese kid that died. They talk about a French child that died in Marseille. So that we know that they take children from all over the world. And this time, they haven't done their research properly. So they've kidnapped a woman's child, not realizing that she's married to a war criminal. The race of the child never kind of comes into it. That would never come into a question. This is a child in need of the help of grown-up people. So to answer your question, no, you can never generalize an entire country of people to the fact that, you know, they have, you know, a few bad eggs. Because fucking hell, we've got a few bad eggs in our country, I tell you. No, so no is the answer. Absolutely not. They are just, we needed, you know, if we'd set the film longer ago, we could have used German war criminals. If we set the film further back, you could have used French or English war criminals, you know. So it's just the time in history, and the most recent European conflict that we could think of that would be relevant was the, you know, the ethnic cleansing in Bosnia and Serbia in the late 90s and stuff. So that, to me, became the sort of the most relevant. Otherwise, you'd have to go further afield to find, and we wanted to keep it European. It's interesting you keep these religious sort of images of the devil, and I don't really know what the devil is. If the devil is anything, it's just that little voice in your head that gives you crap advice. You know, it's like the one that goes, go on, do it. And you're like, well, I shouldn't really do it. Go on, do it. And it's like, well, I don't think it's a very good idea. Nah, but it'd be fun. Yeah. I think the devil is in all of us, is the answer to that question. Anyone and everybody is capable of horrendous things, but we have to try and rise above that and be better human beings than that. So the answer to your question, the devil's in everyone. But you know what? There's a brilliant quote on Twitter from The Rock, right? Dwayne Johnson. I love it. I read it and I fucking love it. And he says, when I get up in the morning, I want the devil to hear my footsteps on the floor and go, damn, he's awake again. I thought, that's great, you know. Yeah, it's an attitude for going out and doing good things. I like that. I suppose you could draw comparisons that it's just, you know, flipping oil companies and, you know, flipping Tony Blair shaking Gaddafi's hand, I suppose. I think the world is run by money and greed, of course, and I think, you know, it's in a world that's frequently in recession, you know, everything's worth less than it was before. A house is worth less than it was. Everything's worth less than it was. Banks aren't loaning anybody any money, but something that is always going to maintain its value and always be priceless is somebody's child. So to a piece of shit out there, whether that's people kidnapping in Mexico or South America or over here, to a piece of shit out there, they think, you know, or these pirates in Somalia, they think this is an easy way to make money because I have a priceless object that people want back. And it's the most disgusting form of money making. And that's why, you know, I love, you know, in this film, kidnappers get every fucking thing they deserve. And I really feel strongly about that. I like to see ordinary characters, you know, faced with extraordinary situations. I always find it's, you know, the more vulnerable, the more fragile your characters are, I think it can make it for more exciting drama than, you know, people who are perhaps stronger, tougher, or have superpowers. So, you know, if Superman falls off a cliff, he's all right, he just fly. You know, he doesn't even need a harness. You know, so it's, you know, for me, I just, you know, I think, you know, it's a very obvious moral. I don't need to preach to anyone. I think the film is, you know, it's very obvious in where the sort of the stance of it is. It's a sort of a classic old school good versus evil movie, really. And the sacrifices one have to make to do the right thing.